Have you ever heard of a place that just disappeared? Not from a map, but from memory. A place so quiet you could hear your own heart beating like a drum. That place is called Blackwood Creek. They say it's a ghost town. But maybe, just maybe, it's not the town that's the ghost. Maybe it's the town that's the ghost. Maybe it's something else. Something hiding in the shadows, waiting. The sign on the old highway is rusted and bent. Welcome to Black Creek. It doesn't feel very welcoming. It feels like a warning. A warning to turn back. A warning to drive away and never ever look back. But some people don't listen to warnings. Old folks in the next town over will tell you to stay away. They say the air there is heavy, cold, even on the hottest summer day. They say the birds don't sing in Blackwood Creek. The squirrels don't chatter. It's a silent, sleeping town. But some things that sleep in town. But some things that sleep are meant to have nightmares. The kind of nightmares that can reach out and grab you. The kind that follow you home. The town has been empty for 50 years. Or so they say. But emptiness can be deceiving. Sometimes the emptiest places are the most crowded. You just can't see who or what is watching you. They say if you stand on the edge of town at dusk, you can almost hear it. A faint hum. Like the town is breathing. A slow, shallow breath. In and out. It's a sound that crawls up your spine and makes the hair on your arms stand up. It's the sound of secrets. Dark, terrible secrets buried under the cracked pavement and behind the boarded-up windows. The townsfolk left in a hurry. They left their dinner on their tables. They left their toys in their yards. They just ran. What could make an entire town run for their lives? What did they see? The legend says a shadow fell over the town. Not a cloud shadow, a different kind. A living shadow. But curiosity is a funny thing. It can lead you right into the darkness. The streets of Blackwood Creek were like veins on a dead leaf, cracked and dry. Weeds forcing through asphalt, pale, distant sun over the road. Every house was a silent scream, paint peeling like sunburnt skin, gray, weathered wood revealed, windows like vacant eyes, boarded up with rotten planks, shattered glass, jagged dark mouths, overturned tricycle in the middle of Main Street, front wheel spinning slowly, squeak, squeak, squeak. It was the only sound in the entire town, and it was the creepiest sound I had ever heard. We walked past the old general store, Miller's mercantile sign swinging on one hinge, grimy front window with dusty shelves, rows of cans and boxes, thick gray dust. The owner seemed to have just stepped out for a moment and never came back. A calendar on the wall, October 1975, yellowed brittle page. Like stepping into a faded, creepy photograph. Something was terribly wrong. Further down, schoolhouse bell tower silent. Double doors slightly ajar, chained with a rusty lock. Closed on the loose chain, gap in the doors. Swing set moving, chains moaning. Trees dead, not a single leaf moves, just the swings. Back and forth, back and forth. Invisible children playing, still laughing. But we couldn't hear their laughter. We could only hear the groaning of the chains. It was a sound that made my teeth ache. So why were we here? Why would anyone come to a place like Blackwood Creek? The answer was simple and stupid. It was a dare. My name is Leo, and my two best friends are Maya and Sam. We were the mystery kids. We loved exploring old places and uncovering local legends. We thought we were brave. We thought we were smart. We were wrong. The dare came from Jake Miller, the school bully. He called us cowards. He said we wouldn't last one night in Blackwood Creek. So, of course, we had to prove him wrong. We packed our flashlights, some snacks, my dad's old video camera. To document our bravery, Maya was the planner. Maps she'd found online. Old newspaper clippings about mass hysteria. She didn't believe in ghosts, but she believed in a good story. There has to be a logical explanation, she kept saying as we drove toward the town. But I could see her hands trembling as she held the map. Sam was the believer. He believed in everything. Ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. He had a backpack full of ghost hunting gear he'd ordered online. An EMF meter that was already beeping erratically. A digital voice recorder. And something he called a spirit box. He was both terrified and unbelievably excited. Guys, this is it. This is the real deal, he whispered, his eyes wide as we passed the creepy, rusted town sign. I can feel the energy. It's heavy. His excitement was not contagious. It just made the knot in my stomach twist even tighter. I was the skeptic caught in the middle. I didn't believe, but I wanted to. Or maybe I was just afraid to. Our reason for being there felt smaller and smaller the deeper we went into Blackwood Creek. The dare from Jake Miller seemed like a joke from another lifetime. This wasn't a game. This wasn't about proving we were brave. The town had a presence, a personality. It felt ancient and angry. It felt like it was watching us, its boarded-up windows like narrowed eyes. It was challenging us, daring us to uncover its secrets. And as the sun began to set, casting long, twisted shadows that looked like grasping fingers, I had a terrible feeling. A feeling that the town was about to accept our challenge. The sun dipped below the horizon, and the town plunged into a deep, dark purple. That's when the sound started. At first, it was just the wind. A low whistle that snaked through the broken windows and empty doorways. But then we started to hear other things mixed in with it. Whispers, faint and scratchy, like a radio tune between stations. We couldn't make out any words. It was just the sound of voices, rising and falling on the breeze. Sam immediately grabbed his digital voice recorder, holding it up like a shield.
Did you hear that?
They're talking. They know we're here. We stood frozen in the middle of Main Street, our flashlight beams cutting shaky holes in the darkness. Then, a light flickered on in the second-story window of a house down the street. It glowed a pale, sickly yellow for just a second, and then it was gone. We all saw it. My heart hammered against my ribs.
Okay, logical explanation.
Reflection? A firefly? But we all knew it wasn't a reflection. It was too big and too steady to be a firefly. It looked like someone had lit a candle and then blew it out. As we crept closer to that house, a new sound began. Music. Faint, tinny music, like an old music box playing a lullaby. It was coming from inside. The melody was slow and sad, but it was also wrong. The notes were slightly off-key, creating a tune that made my skin crawl. It was a happy song turned into something awful. We peered through a crack in the boarded-up door. In the center of the dark living room, our flashlights found it. A child's rocking horse. It was rocking back and forth, slowly, steadily, and the music was coming from a small box on the floor next to it. But there was no one there to wind it up. Suddenly, the music stopped. The rocking horse stopped. Silence rushed back in, heavier and more terrifying than the music had been. And then we heard it. A giggle. A little girl's giggle. It came from the top of the stairs inside the house. It was a playful sound, but there was no joy in it. It was cold. Empty. That was it for me. Let's go, I stammered, pulling at Maya's sleeve. Now. But as we turned to run, a loud bang echoed from the other end of town. It came from the old textile mill. A heavy metallic slam as if a giant steel door had just been shut and locked. Against my better judgment, we didn't run. The loud slam from the mill drew us in like moths to a flame. Maybe it was a person, a squatter. A logical explanation. But as we approached the hulking, rust-colored building, that hope faded. The Blackwood textile mill was a monster of brick and steel, its smokestacks like broken fingers pointing at the moonless sky. A sign near the massive chain gate read, "Property of the Blackwood Corporation. Closed since 1975. The chains on the gate were thick and ancient, but the gate itself was slightly ajar. Just enough for a person to squeeze through. It was another invitation into the darkness. The old story said the trouble started here. The town's founder, Silas Blackwood, was obsessed with efficiency. He pushed his workers harder and harder, running the looms day and night. The noise was deafening. The air was thick with cotton dust. People got sick. They called it white lung, but Silas didn't care. He just wanted the mill to produce more. The legend claimed that in his greed he made a deal with something dark. Something that lived in the shadows of the mill. Something that promised to make the looms run forever, without the need for human hands. The price, of course, was steep. We squeezed through the gate and stepped onto the mill's property. The air here was different. It smelled of rust, damp earth, and something else. Something metallic and sweet, like old blood. Sam's EMF meter, which had been buzzing quietly, suddenly shrieked to life, its needle jumping into the red.
The energy here is off the charts.
"Ask a question," he urged. "Ask who's here. Is anyone here?" I called out into the night. For a moment, there was only silence. Then a sound came from deep within the mill. It wasn't a whisper or a footstep. It was a low, rhythmic thumping. Thump, 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 thump. It sounded like a giant heart starting to beat. And then another sound joined it. A clanking, grinding noise. The sound of machinery stirring from a long, long sleep. The looms were starting up.